Adeline shivered. It wasn't just the drafty windows of Parsons Manor, it was the house itself. Old, silent, and definitely creepy. Dust lay thick on everything like a forgotten shroud. Cobwebs draped the corners of rooms like ghostly decorations no one had bothered to take down. The air hung heavy, still, and cold. So very cold. Adeline pulled her sweater tighter around her. She had wanted a fresh start, a quiet place. But this quiet felt wrong. It felt watchful. The manor stood on a hill overlooking the town. Its darkened windows looked like empty eyes. Locals whispered stories about it, stories Adeline had tried to ignore. But now, standing in the grand, gloomy hallway, the whispers seemed to echo in the silence. Every floorboard creaked under her weight, a mournful sound in the vast emptiness. Doors, even when closed, seemed to sigh. She felt a constant prickling sensation on her skin, like unseen eyes were following her every move. It was an unsettling welcome, to say the least. She tried to unpack, to make a small corner of the massive house feel like home. But the task felt overwhelming. Impossible even. Each box she opened seemed to release more of the house's chill. Her bright, cheerful belongings looked out of place against the dark wood and faded wallpaper. They looked small and vulnerable. The house seemed to swallow them whole. A vase of flowers she placed on a dusty mantelpiece already looked wilted, defeated, just like she was starting to feel. Evenings were the hardest part of the day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, long, twisted shadows crept across the floors. They stretched and writhed like living things. The silence deepened, becoming a heavy blanket that smothered every small sound. Adeline would find herself jumping at the slightest noise, a distant owl's hoot, the rustle of leaves outside. Or was it something inside? She was utterly alone, or at least she hoped she was. The thought sent another shiver down her spine. Then came the noises. At first, they were soft. So soft Adeline thought she imagined them. A faint whisper, like someone sighing her name from an empty room down the hall. She would freeze, her heart thumping like a trapped bird. "Hello?" she'd call out, her voice small and shaky. Only silence answered, or sometimes a floorboard would creak upstairs, right above her head. But she was the only one in the house, she was sure of it. Wasn't she? She started to investigate. Armed with a flickering flashlight, she'd creep through the darkened corridors. Her own shadow danced grotesquely on the walls, making her jump. "Is anyone there?" she'd ask the darkness. The sounds always stopped just as she got close. The whispers would fade. The footsteps would cease. It was as if the house was playing a cruel game with her, teasing her, making her doubt her own senses. Was she going crazy? The thought terrified her. One night, a new sound pierced the silence. Music, a faint tinkling melody drifting down from the attic. It was a lullaby, but it sounded wrong, distorted, sad. Adeline had never been in the attic. The door was stuck, or so she thought. She definitely hadn't seen a music box anywhere. Her blood ran cold. The tune was eerie, haunting. It seemed to beckon her, drawing her towards the attic stairs. Each note sent a fresh wave of dread through her. Cold spots began to appear and move. One moment she'd be in the relatively warmer kitchen, the next a patch of icy air would drift past her. So cold she could see her breath fogging in front of her face. It would linger for a moment, then vanish, only to reappear in another part of the room. The house felt like it was breathing, taking slow, cold, shallow breaths, and it was watching her, always watching. She felt trapped, a tiny insect caught in a giant, dusty, and very cold spider's web. Adeline was in the kitchen. She was trying to make tea. Her hands trembled as she filled the kettle. A persistent tapping sound had started. Tap, tap, tap. It came from inside the pantry. She was trying her best to ignore it, to pretend it was just the old house settling. Then she felt it, a change in the air, a sudden stillness. She turned and gasped. A man stood in the doorway, just stood there, watching her. He was tall, dressed in dark clothes. His eyes were intense, burning into her. "This house?" he said, his voice a low, smooth rumble that sent shivers down her spine. It wasn't loud, but it filled the room. "It doesn't like new people, Adeline." He knew her name. How did he know her name? She hadn't told anyone she was moving here. Not really. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. He hadn't made a sound when he entered. One moment the doorway was empty, the next he was there, like a shadow detaching itself from the wall. Who are you?" Adeline stammered. Her voice was barely a whisper. "How did you get in my house?" The man smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was chilling, predatory. "I have my ways," he said softly. "This house and I, we have an understanding." He took a slow step into the kitchen. "I know things about this place, Adeline. Dark things. Things that would make your skin crawl right off your bones. Secrets buried deep within its rotting heart." He moved closer. The air around him felt even colder. "And I know things about you, Adeline." His voice was a silken threat. "The house tells me. It whispers your secrets in the dead of night." His gaze was like a physical touch, heavy and unwelcome. She couldn't look away. She felt rooted to the spot, her heart hammering against her ribs like a frantic drum. Panic was rising, a cold tide threatening to drown her. This man, Zade, was more terrifying than any ghostly noise, because he was real. Zade's unsettling smile widened, showing a flash of teeth. "The house told me you're afraid of the dark, Adeline," he purred. "It knows you lie awake at night listening, wondering what waits just beyond your sight, what monsters lurk in the shadows." Adeline's breath hitched. He was right. How could he possibly know that? It was her deepest, most private fear, a secret she barely acknowledged to herself. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. "The house has chosen you, Adeline," Zade continued, his voice dropping to an intimate, conspiratorial whisper that made her blood freeze. "It has plans. Big plans." He gestured vaguely around the decaying kitchen, his dark eyes gleaming with a strange light. "And he paused, letting the suspense hang heavy in the air. "I am part of those plans, an important part." What plans? What did he mean? Adeline wanted to scream, to run, but her feet felt like lead. Suddenly, as if on cue, every light in the old manor flickered wildly. Once, twice, then plunged the kitchen into near darkness, lit only by the pale moonlight filtering through the grimy window. A deafening crash echoed from upstairs. It sounded like a heavy piece of furniture had been thrown across a room. Zade didn't even flinch. He just kept his unnerving gaze fixed on Adeline. "They're getting impatient," he said, his voice calm amidst the chaos. "They don't like to be kept waiting." The heavy front door, which Adeline had bolted earlier, slammed shut with a violent bang. The sound reverberated through the entire house, a final, definitive punctuation mark. Adeline's head snapped towards the sound, her eyes wide with terror. When she whipped her head back to where Zade had been standing, he was gone, vanished into thin air, as if he'd never been there at all. But his chilling, soft laugh seemed to hang in the cold air, followed by a slow, deliberate, dragging sound, coming from the hallway, getting closer.